Greetings and welcome to the Pure Report. I am your host, Rob Ludeman, and it is time to bring the orange. I'm thrilled, as always, to have my guest in studio, Mark Wilkinson, consulting field solution architect covering databases and recently joined the company.
Oh, yeah.
Not too long ago, yeah?
No, I've been here 7 months.
7 months.
Yeah.
What have you learned in that 7 months about Everpure?
That there's a lot more to learn about storage than I ever thought possible.
Okay.
'Cause
Interesting.
I was a DBA and a pure DBA, and we had pure storage.
Yeah.
I was a customer for 10 years, and I never had to worry about storage because we were a pure storage customer. So yeah, it's been a big learning experience. A lot to absorb in the past 7 months here.
So one of the things I like we do with the specialist organizations, though, is that we don't lean always heavily on people that have just worked only in storage, right? As you're coming in from the outside in of, as a DBA, I'm a practitioner. I've worked on databases and I want to understand which ones those are in time as well. But you come in here and go, okay, I've got a little bit to learn about storage, but really the people I want to talk to are the ones who are sitting in my seat over the last 10 years, who are going through the same pains that I went through, who don't realize there's a better way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a great. I mean, not like I'm selling the job here to anybody, but it was a great interview process, and it was exactly that. They wanted my perspective and said they could teach me the storage part. So here we are.
So what was the idea about that? Is a pretty significant career transition, but not unusual with many of the guests that I have that are in our specialist organization. We do over time. I feature a lot of people that were existing customers who say, well, I love this and I love the job I have working on the customer side, but actually now I want to go explain that to others. I want to share the goodness. I want to help others be successful.
So it's funny, there's actually, I'll take it a step higher than that. Because not only was I a database administrator, I was also a manager.
Okay.
So I'm moving from a manager role to an IC role.
How big was your team? How many people did you have?
When I left, I can't remember now.
Handful, or was it
more
digits?
more no double digits.
Okay, so it was significant. That's a big team.
Yeah. There was a transition that took place, and I absorbed another team. But I have wanted to work at Pure since I met Argenis.
Yes.
Because like I said, we were a customer. We were doing a lab engagement somewhere that I don't know that I can mention, so I won't.
That's fair.
And we were having an issue. We called Argenis, who was in the area, and he was there in 10 minutes and helped us through the issue. And really, ever since then, I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. That's a job. You just help customers solve problems, because that's one of the things that I love to do. And this opportunity showed up, so I jumped right on it.
Well, it's a good team too. Good team with good leadership, and you always want that, right? It's about who you work with and who you work for. But Argenis is one of those, probably one of the first people I met, I think, from the specialist org. For people who don't know, since we're talking just in the first name, two-time Pure Storage, now Everpure employee. He was here when I started and then left and then came back after another stint at Microsoft. I think he kind of bounces back and forth, but really deep in the SQL Server landscape, like Anthony, like Andy. We have those people that are in that community, and it is a community. It truly is. It's a community of people that want to share and help with others. What are the databases that you prefer working? We all have our flavors, right?
So it's funny. I'm a SQL Server DBA by trade.
Okay.
I would never touch it for personal projects.
Okay.
I really, really, really appreciate the engineering and efficiency of SQLite, which is obviously, some would say, is not I guess, I don't know if anybody'd say it's not a real database platform, but it's, it's a self-contained executable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like stuff like that. I like things with a lot of engineering and a lot of thought that went into it. And it's one of the most installed databases on the planet, I think. 'Cause it's running in everyone's phones and on airplanes and stuff. So, Yeah, if I had to choose one that I could only work with for the rest of my life, I probably would choose SQLite.
SQLite.
It's a very cool product.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What parts of the business were you supporting, right? I mean, again, the database has all the company data, the important things, and I can't remember what industry you were in. You can recast me on that. It was, we spent a lot of time talking and cruising around when we were at Orlando at Sales Kickoff. That's where we conceived the idea for doing this podcast around the changing role of the DBA, which we'll get into. But I'm always curious, there's a bunch of apps that sit up on top, and what were you supporting? Like, what was mission critical for the team to do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, so it's funny. So it's e-commerce company is where I come from, and it was all custom. We did really
homegrown apps, just
homegrown
all
apps.
homewritten, nothing commercial off the shelf, no bot stuff.
Actually, really cool stuff too.
Yeah.
Similar in functionality to something like Kubernetes.
Okay.
Before Kubernetes existed, and there was something that we could have used. And then we merged with another company, another e-commerce company that also used completely custom code, completely custom application, and also had something kind of similar to like a Kubernetes kind of like work scheduling system that they had as well. So apparently a common pattern for older e-commerce companies, I guess. But yeah, e-commerce was a challenge because it's extremely high throughput all day long.
Yeah.
And then you've got the holiday shopping seasons, which are also the times when you would rather spend time with family, but you're
always on.
Yeah, always on.
You're working on holidays too, I'd assume.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which actually, that's another thing that attracted me to this role. A
normal schedule.
Well, not only that, but the moment I uninstalled PagerDuty from my phone, I felt a weight.
Oh my gosh!
Release.
I can only imagine.
Because I had been on call for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And as the manager,
it goes up to you.
Yeah, I'm not doing a lot of the day to day as much. I wasn't anymore, but still, I'm still in the rotation, and I'm still back up when people, are off or whatever. So yeah, that's been a big shift.
It's a nice shift for you. Well, congrats on that.
Thank you.
You also, in your CV, you listed you spent some time as a reliability engineer, and I always see that thrown around, and I always want to know. I kind of have an idea, and I've talked to others about it, but what's the difference there? What are you actually doing?
It's mindset.
Yeah?
It's funny, actually, because that's kind of what this whole talk is about. My title was changed.
Yeah.
Like our team. We were database operations, and then we were database reliability engineering. Our day-to-day work did not change at all. It was the same thing.
It was just cosmetic, really.
It was very cosmetic.
Yeah.
But that's also because our team was very focused on automation and reproducibility, everything in source control. Anytime we could not touch something twice, we would take the extra time to make sure that we didn't have to touch it twice.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what and big on observability.
Okay.
Huge on observability. I contributed to the Telegraph project. The SQL Server plugin specifically. So I'm really big into monitoring and alerting and stuff like that. But yeah. So we were doing a lot of the stuff that people would usually call reliability engineering before that's what the team was actually called.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly just a DBA, but really, really hyper focused on automation and monitoring and observability stuff.
You mentioned closer to the top about bringing in Pure Storage 10 years ago and running it for a long time. Now, a lot of times when we're talking to IT organizations, we're not directly talking to maybe the DBAs or the virtualization admins, but they're certainly adjacent, right?
Yeah.
They're there and they're impacted by what poor performing storage or clunky or needs to be upgraded storage is. So when your organization initially brought that in, how much did you know or how involved were you in that decision?
So I wasn't, but
Yes.
I was new.
Aha.
I was new.
Okay.
I got there right as we were transitioning over to Pure Storage. Now, what I got to experience as somebody that had never worked in an environment like that, because I had worked on environments that had 3 database servers,
Yeah.
and moved over to an environment with 600. So it was a big culture shock for me to move over to an environment like that to begin with. I was just getting my hands on monitoring. It's something I've always loved. And then we shifted to pure storage, and all of the sudden, all of our I/O weights went away, and the CPUs were just smoking. Instances were falling over because they were running so fast, and our application just was not. We were not ready.
They were not ready.
We were not ready to not have any I/O bottlenecks anymore.
Yeah. We moved the bottleneck, which I always love.
Yes. No, I do too.
I love when you can move the bottleneck somewhere else.
And you learn a lot about your environment when you remove a bottleneck. So, and I learned a lot about monitoring and reliability in a very short amount of time because stuff was falling over. So but no, I don't know how involved we were. The team was really in the decision. I will shout out to Larry Coe.
Yeah.
He handles all the storage. He was what you would traditionally call our storage admin. He's an awesome guy. He's awesome on vendor calls because he will call you out as a vendor if he thinks that what you're saying is not true. He'll be like, okay, show me. So he didn't really believe the pure message because, I mean,
sometimes
that long ago it was pretty wild.
It was crazy.
But did a POC, and they were telling the truth. So
and then did an evergreen upgrade here or there, and those worked how we said they were. Yeah,
absolutely.
It takes people a little bit to see the light, but sometimes you have to see it working to actually know, because there are a lot of claims, a lot of marketing claims, a lot of spin out there about
and
what
not just on
storage.
Everywhere,
on
everywhere.
Everything. So on everything. I want to cue this up, and thank you for bringing this topic. So for everybody that's listening, watching, Mark's a DBA. He's just came here after 7 months, so it's super fresh. Not that it'll go away. I always kind of think once you're a DBA, you're always going to be a DBA, but you're also focusing on those types of environments. So really going through what the changes in the role are. So even for those that are out there that are maybe deep into the storage world or generalist IT, it's really good to have an understanding of a lot of the really interesting changing conditions that are going on. And certainly we'll touch on AI, but there's things around cloud, and you already mentioned Kubernetes and containers, and because the database is really the crown jewels of the data of the company, there's an intersection that happens there, and so the role does change. What I love about seeing how the role has changed over the last 5 or 10 years is I would argue that it has not eliminated the role at all. What I've seen more is that it's just changed the function or changed what the focus areas need to be, and also shifted away maybe from some of the mundane things that 10 or 15 years ago you just had to do on a day-to-day basis.
I like to say that it's changed the possible definitions of the role.
Okay.
Because as it changes, all of the old definitions of what a DBA does, there's still organizations doing that stuff.
Sure.
And if you're the kind of person that likes doing like a traditional like DBA role, there's absolutely going to be jobs out there.
You can find that.
Yeah, the market's going to get smaller for stuff like that, but there's absolutely stuff out there. And if you are a if you really like databases and you're super into containers, there's going to be jobs for that. If you're really into automation, there's going to be jobs for that, and so on and so forth. And there's of course going to be intersections of all of those things. Yeah. So it's actually kind of a cool time to be a DBA because you can be involved in a lot of different technologies and get exposure to a lot of things that, just a couple years ago, it was not super typical.
And potentially have time to go invest in those things too, which maybe you didn't have before. I mean, that's really the sneaky upside here, is that if you are in one of those organizations that's maybe a little more self-actualized or a little more aggressive on the adoption curve, and maybe you've solved some of the underlying infrastructure problems. We are, here at a data management company, right? And so those are things that cause problems. But if you've done that, then it is an opportunity to go expand your career and expand what you know and what you've learned. And so, yes, you still are a DBA, but you're doing other things, or you're a reliability engineer, right?
Yeah.
Back to your
Yeah.
retitling. I found a couple really good stats to cue up where we're going to go. So one, and these are both from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from 25-26, 81% of DBAs primarily handle Oracle and SQL Server. So validating what you said before, that they're predominant, but really interesting, increasingly managing diverse non-relational data, right? We've got the rise of AI, we've got file and unstructured type of things, with 1 in 3 considering a career shift due to evolving responsibilities. To your point, like, this opens up other opportunities. The other interesting one was around demand drivers. So this shift to unstructured, right, and call it big data like we did 8 or 10 years ago, IoT, really AI, unstructured. It said it's changing the role into a data administrator. I thought that was really interesting, and I've used the term data strategist on the pod in the past. What do you think about that?
I mean, it kind of goes back to what I said, how the role is changing, but there's still a lot of options for folks to do what they like to do.
Yeah.
No, this one is interesting because I feel like my team that I had in my previous company, because of all the automation work and basically freeing up our time, all the time that we created by doing that work, it allowed us to be able to focus on this stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas before we wouldn't have had time, and probably would have been like, that's not a relational database. Like,
right.
I don't care.
Yeah,
like,
that's something else.
Yeah.
But even those things are kind of merging when you get into this vectorization and like there's, and I think I haven't released it yet, but I had Anthony and Justin Emerson on recently, and that'll probably
at
come
the same time.
I know, crazy. Yes, we called it two obnoxious redheads or something, something of that nature. But that was, we meant to talk about a whole bunch of topics, and we really almost just stayed on this whole data virtualization theme because it was really fascinating about. And we use like the Reese's analogy of, you got your peanut butter in my chocolate and your chocolate in my you got your object in my block, and but there was enough there. There was enough meat, because that really is happening, where those things are changing. And so you can't say that I'm not interested, that's not relational anymore. Or you, as the DBA, you kind of have to pay attention to it.
Absolutely. And one thing that kind of drives that too is boring. No offense to anybody that loves this topic.
Yes.
As boring as the topic can be, is compliance.
Okay. Why?
Because, like, nobody wants to do the compliance work typically.
Right. Just like testing backups.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody ever wants to do that.
Well, I just did a great paper on that.
Did you? Well, I thought if you want to punish DBAs, you made them test backups, right? That's the old adage.
But, if you're going through like an audit of any kind, they're going to ask all kinds of questions about your relational database systems. And now they are also going to ask all of those same questions about any other kind of platform you could have that could store data. So it really starts a lot of conversations internally at companies where they're like, who's actually responsible for this? And since nobody wants to be involved in compliance, a lot of it does start to get kind of funneled onto the DBA team, which I think is a great opportunity for folks to step up and expand their knowledge a little bit and grow the influence of their team even. Like, it can be super great for your career and just how your whole team is viewed by the company if you get involved in more of these things.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Yes. Increasing gravity around data gravity. Right? Something like that. I'm gonna go with that.
I like it.
Okay, let's go further with the changing world, and I maybe delve into past history or anecdotal thing too much on this podcast. So apologies those. I love looking back to see how things have evolved, right, over time. You even mentioned, right, you went from like 3 database servers to 600 database servers, which is a monumental shift. But I suspect, and even my days in Oracle and back at Sun, a lot of the databases were like carved out, right? They were siloed, or this database server runs this one and hits this storage, and there was not a lot of sharing across, and maybe you had some bare metal things going on pre-virtualization. But you would sum that up as maybe you were managing maybe smaller estates, right? Your span of control was a little bit less, or am I off on that supposition?
I'm sure it's true somewhere.
Yeah.
But no, so the small environments
Yeah.
that I looked after were the kind that were running like dev and test on the same box,
Okay.
or dev
Oh,
and
okay.
production on the same box kind
Right.
of thing. And then when I moved to it's my latest role before this, it was classes of servers. So there was 600 of them across. That's across production and dev. There
Okay.
was close to 200 in production, but a chunk of those had a function. A chunk of those had another function. They're all kind of interrelated, but you did kind of manage them as a group.
Okay.
Which managing them as a group, you can kind of understand how we got to the point of being more of a reliability engineering team. Because it's like, oh, hey, these 60 servers are roughly doing the same thing with the same type of data on them. Let's just manage them with some automation the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how
and then do your observability to see what's actually going on.
Yeah,
And make sure that nothing goes awry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that does that answer your question?
I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. But also there was the notion, and I tabbed these two things from when we talked in some of your notes, was you mentioned this out at the top too. Like, you had to live with slow storage, right? It was a thing because disk was disk, and flash was still new but very interesting, but also very expensive.
Absolutely.
And maybe unproven and weird, right? We're gonna run on these chips, right? We're gonna just store things in ones and zeros in cells, as opposed to disk drives have been around since, I don't know, my dad would say the 60s. I can't remember. He has little platters on his desk. There's my dad mentioned for the thing. But you had to deal with slow storage. But you have the exposure of getting the phone call from the app people, right?
Well, that's the funny thing is that when you're that used to dealing with slow storage, you almost don't realize that you're dealing with slow storage until you get something better.
Okay.
And then I actually focused more on storage after the bottleneck went away, because we were trying to figure out what the heck happened, like why all this. I mean, we knew because we just did a migration, obviously. But I think that's when I learned the most about how SQL interacts with storage, is because I was just trying to figure out why, why the CPU was just on fire. But when you're in it every day and your disk is slow, you don't focus on it a whole lot because you can't really do a whole lot about it.
Right.
You've got to do other things. Like, I learned a lot about just T-SQL development at my previous role, because we couldn't really do anything with the hardware. So that was the only knob we had to turn.
Yeah.
Is that. So yeah. I mean, that's when I got a lot better too at being able to monitor applications, specifically what applications we're doing, and helping the development teams kind of work through it and figure out how to make things better.
And you have that slow storage or slow hardware in general, you start doing kind of funky things to work around, right? There was a customer meeting with one of the large airlines that I went to, and it was a server thing, but I think they had really slow storage, and it was their mileage program, right? And so during the day, they're just doing transactional work.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have time to do all the compiling of they didn't have time to do all the serial and the batch and so I was like, well, how do you operate this? I said, well, during the day, we didn't do any batch stuff whatsoever, because we can't. It would slow everything down because it takes hours and hours to run, and then we hit midnight or 1 o'clock and things cool down because in the U.S. it's nighttime, and that's when we push all our batch stuff, and we pray that it will finish by 6 or 7 o'clock when the East Coast gets up and going. And so they had architected something funky, right? It's probably not how you want to operate, because they had slow hardware, they had slow storage, and they found a way to make it work. And that was our job there. We were trying to help solve that. But that's where you get to when you're having to contend with some of these things. You just start doing some funky stuff.
Well, and to that point too, if you come into an environment that has slow storage or any sort of bottleneck, and you don't have a database team that is really skilled in troubleshooting that, you end up with a lot of developer fixes, like application developer fixes to make things go faster.
Like custom things, though,
which is
too.
always more threads.
Right.
It's always more threads. That's always the answer, it seems. Run into that a lot of times. And then having to educate people and kind of unwind that and say more threads can sometimes help, but when you add a certain number, things actually get worse.
Yeah, because you hit the wait states.
Yeah, exactly.
You still have to wait. You're just waiting faster now if
Yeah.
you've added more threads. Like that's the
Yeah.
joke I always used to tell. Like,
Yeah.
it's great you architected this, but we're just waiting faster now for the same stuff to return.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of interesting challenges and stuff like that pop up.
Let's do a little bit of lightning round and respond as long as you want. I say lightning round just because I want to hit it. I want to go from kind of some of this historical that we've gotten into with a lot of the challenges to where and how the role is expanding, right? So this is Mark's take on the world of, here's what you view has been going on, probably largely some of it collected in the last 5 years, because some of these things we're talking about have come into prominence. And one that we've hit on the show before, but interested in your perspective on cloud, on data mobility. What did that came into play 10, 15 years ago and has obviously matured, right? I mean, it is
Absolutely.
useful, DR in the cloud and data mobility in general and the trade-offs that you can get from doing that. Like it is a useful tool, but at the DBA seat that you were sitting in, what did that do to you, or what did you just observe in general that the adoption of cloud technologies by organizations, some by executives without much knowledge of how things actually work, saying
Yes.
we are going to be predominantly a cloud company, and you're going, well, I know how things work, but
Yeah.
what did that do? What did that do to the role, and then how is it shifted today?
So one of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me,
Yeah.
is that I was the voice of reason
Oh,
in a lot of the like architectural meetings and stuff.
you
that
need
we
those
used to have.
people in those meetings.
Yeah. Which, I'm horrible at taking compliments. So like when he said that, I'm like, okay. But looking back, okay, yeah, I was. But the cloud is
Yeah.
a good topic to talk about in that respect because there's a place for the cloud. Absolutely. Like you said, data mobility.
Sure.
That's a great example of where the cloud really shines. Now, where the cloud might not shine is if you've got some massive, like 72 core box that just does tons and tons of work. It's going to be hard to shoehorn that into the cloud. You really need to architect your stuff for the cloud. But it gives DBAs a lot more levers to pull
Interesting.
that maybe don't have to go through finance as much. Because
Shadow IT?
not really shadow IT,
I know,
but
I'm
like
joking, I'm
no
joking.
big, there's no big purchase order coming in or anything.
Yeah, it's operational.
But
right?
where it really helps is, and this is stuff that just really wasn't possible before without having dedicated hardware, is if a developer comes to you and says, hey, I've got this idea. Now, there's a lot of jokes that DBAs like to say no. I never really like to say no.
Yeah.
If a developer came to me with an idea that I thought was good, I hated to have to say no, but a lot of times you had to say no because, like, literally there's nowhere that this can run.
Yeah, I don't have space. I can't carve you out this room.
Yeah.
Go to the cloud.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. So that's where the cloud really helped change things because it gave developers somewhere to try stuff, which then caused its own problems because then everybody ran off and tried stuff, and then suddenly it wasn't trying stuff anymore. It was just production, and you didn't even know it was there. But that's I feel like that's shifted back. I mean, that's how all of this stuff goes, right? There'll be a big influx. Everybody gets really excited. They do a bunch of stuff. There's some pain. Management's like, hey, what is going on? Let's fix this. And then we kind of calm down a little bit and things equalize. And I feel like we've equalized finally with the cloud. And like that example, it just opens up a lot more possibilities. And I'm a huge relationship builder. I think that's probably one of the most important things DBA can do because they are so popular for, well, the stereotypes that they're always saying no.
Yeah.
So if you can work with your developers and be like, yes, but let's try it this way first, you can buy yourself a lot of credit and your team and make things a lot easier. So yeah, like all of these new things that pop up are definitely challenges. And this sounds like a self-help book or something, but like you really should see them as opportunities because they're opportunities to build relationships with other people in the company. Sometimes even getting finance on your side, which is never bad.
Yeah.
And an opportunity to expand your knowledge and your skills. and make your team more marketable.
Yeah. But also just that flexibility you mentioned, right? Because the development doesn't stop, right? It's not a finite process where it goes, oh, well, I just updated that code to that app. I'm going to press it in and I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like it is an ongoing thing. And part of that process is getting active copies of production data in order to run tests, right? And
Absolutely.
the whole copy, clone, refresh process, right? And that whole thing. So if you can move that to, you could even, push production copies up to the cloud to let people go access and push down. It just opens up those levers, as you say, of flexibility, but also closely related. We touched on DevOps and containers, and you said there's these things that people, that we all go towards, and then we kind of pull back. I don't know if there's going to be a really pullback on the DevOps. Like, I think we're in. I think we're all in.
What does DevOps mean anymore?
And I have another colleague who always goes, it's no longer DevOps, it's Ops Dev. I'm like, okay, well, all you did was switch them around, but really it's the containers part. And I knew this was a thing. I think 2018 or 2019, they had me go travel around the country to host and moderate these C-level roundtables, which was super fun, right?
Yeah.
Just to pitch a topic and then guide the discussion, almost like leading a podcast. Who knows? But there was this one CTO who I think they were in the golf equipment. It was in Scottsdale, right? And the golf equipment business, and they ran SAP. And he talked about this whole thing about where he sees this coming with containers, and he went off and trained his team to do containerized, database SAP. And I was like, well, I haven't heard much about that, but it was super interesting. And that was 7 years ago. Like now it's a household, it's a household word, but I know Oracle, I know, SQL, I know the open source databases, for lack of a better term. They're all in on this. Like this is a thing, but what is it, again, to your theme, what does this do for the DBA role then is having this containerization? Like, what does it open up?
It's another option.
Yeah.
And I think where it can get really interesting. So I love containers.
Yeah.
Because I present, and there's nothing easier than spinning up a SQL Server container for a demo. Like, it's beautiful.
Just boom.
There it is. And if you're a developer, spin up a SQL Server container. Now, there's the issue of getting data into it and stuff like that. But I guess one of the bigger challenges comes in for some of these technologies, especially containers, is when you're using a ton of features. Because like the shop that I came from used like every feature that could be used
in the database.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
for SQL Server.
Yeah.
And not all of those are compatible with SQL Server on Linux, which is what you're going to run in a container.
Yeah.
So it kind of limited the options a little bit. But it's funny. So many of these technologies really help the dev test cycle because it's another great technology, just like the cloud. It gives you another option for people to test something out. Now, where the biggest impact came for me as a DBA was containerized applications.
Okay.
So, you've still got the big database server, but suddenly you've got these containerized applications, and they can stretch from the cloud to on-prem. It was interesting just because it opened up a whole new avenue of troubleshooting as far as like latency and stuff like that goes. But I think where it really helped me is that it really forced teams to start thinking about resiliency. Because they stopped thinking about their application as something that was just always going to be there and started thinking about it as something that could go away.
Okay.
More ephemeral.
I was going to say, that's the word that usually comes up.
Yeah.
It's ephemeral.
Yeah. Which I guess, and it's funny, walking through this with you, I'm figuring out how my team became a reliability team. It was
all these things are going right down that direction.
Yeah, it was
the
stuff
reliability
like that.
engineer role. Yeah.
And again, when developers started doing working with containers more, it opened up a lot more conversations.
I was going to ask, did it create more?
Yeah.
There's it's almost like there's two different worlds, and you're kind of serving data up to the devs, but now you're speaking a common language around this container thing, and it almost brought the groups together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And changing the frame of their application, like I said, to something that's always there to something that's a little more ephemeral, it changes the conversation around the database a little bit more. I guess one really great thing that came out of that at my previous company was devs coming to us and saying, hey, we noticed that whenever you guys do this certain kind of maintenance, we lose connection for like a couple milliseconds.
Oh, interesting.
And, we would like to figure out a way so that you can still do your stuff, but, it doesn't impact the app. Which as a DBA, you're like,
yeah,
fantastic.
That's nirvana.
Let's work on this.
Yes. Yeah. Let's be teammates rather than antagonists.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of those conversations would have happened if these technologies wouldn't have forced the relationship building and the conversations to start happening. So, yeah.
I love it. What about self-service workflows? And I'm not even going to try for a clever segue there, but you mentioned automation before, so I think we're a little bit down that path. But I've noticed, and I pay more attention to the Oracle world just because of my background, I've noticed in the last few versions of Oracle that, and excluding AI, but that's certainly a part of it, there's just a lot more technology that's been brought in around workflows, around automating. And I think it was either Argenis or one of the other SQL Server folks, who was big into PowerShell, was like, if you have to touch it, you said this earlier, if you have to touch it more than once, then script it, right?
Yeah.
Script it, automate it. But there's a lot more with self-service workflows now than there ever used to be as well, which makes things easier.
I think the thing that really got people onto this is the thing that I also say that we sell here.
Yeah.
We're a data management company, but I think what we really sell is time.
Yeah.
We give people time to do other things other than worrying about their storage all day. And all of these things that we've talked about already, like cloud, and the whole DevOps movement and containers and stuff, it gives people more time, so that they can start thinking about, better ways to do stuff. And what better way to give people more time than self-service?
Yeah.
Because once you get into the habit of thinking about time like that, like as something that you're spending and something that you can save, as a DBA team, you start thinking about things like, am I adding any value right now? Like when I get a request from a developer to restore a database so that they can test something, like what am I bringing to the table other than access, like other than the ability to do it because of the permissions that I have as a DBA? What am I doing here? And we at my previous team, we asked that question a lot, like got into the habit of saying, what am I adding to this? Like, I'm a DBA, I want control. Do I really need control of this? Like, is this really, is this adding any value? Is it helping the business? No, it's not. So like one great example of self-service workflows is just that, database restores for developers to do testing and stuff. There's really no reason why a DBA needs to control that. Yeah. They can set up the guardrails, like to kind of mix a couple of these topics. Like if your backups are in the cloud and a developer requests to restore a 10 terabyte database, well, maybe we put the brakes on that a little bit because you have to pay for that to come down. You got to find somewhere that it can land. But yeah, a lot of that is about just saving time and reproducibility. So saving time in troubleshooting, saving time in just doing it, and really just going and doing the things that actually add value, that use your skills.
Yeah.
Like to talk about Larry again, the storage admin. With Pure, he can focus a lot less on managing the storage and more on like actually adding value, like actually using his expertise to help people make better architectural decisions and things like that. So that's what a lot of this is about, is just getting more time to actually use your knowledge and expertise and not just checking a box and clicking a button kind of stuff.
Well, and it's exciting what we're doing with Fusion and what we're doing with MCP Server.
And
what we're doing, like all those things. I'm looking at that and I'm just blown away constantly by the degree which we're now able to automate workflows, right? Not even tasks, but just like complete end-to-end workflows of, I'm going to set out to do a thing. And in the past, I would have spent half a day coding, scripting, writing, whatever, and now I just kind of set it up and boom, away it goes, and it lets me know the status at each step and then says, hi, I'm done. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, it's funny, too, because a lot of this stuff for me started out of just laziness.
Yeah.
Because I worked at a real estate company and I had to do some batch processing stuff, and it was the software package that we had handled it, but you had to babysit it, and it took like 45 minutes.
Okay.
every morning to run through it.
Ugh.
And someone gave me the task, and I started doing it. I'm like, this is garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? What am I doing here? Like, and this is, earlier in my career, so I wasn't saying like, I'm not using my expertise right now.
Right.
I was like, I don't want to do this. This
Yeah.
is terrible.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to do this. So I automated it, and it took, I think it took 5 minutes every morning, and I never had to deal with it again.
Yeah, set it up and go get a cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
Right? You know?
And then I think that mindset just kind of slowly morphs into everything else that we've been talking about here.
Yeah. I like the philosophy, though, that you have a really common theme of it. And I think IT professionals can and should ask themselves more, like, am I really adding value here with these tasks? What are things that I can do more for the business, as opposed to, sitting for 45 minutes watching the batch job complete, or,
Yeah.
creating a backup for a dev that they could do on their own if you set up the right guardrails. As you said,
Absolutely. And
right?
if you talk to your devs and you're like, hey, you know how you've been having to put in Jira tickets and
Yeah.
wait for
Right.
2 days or whatever for us to restore? We just made this system where it's done in 10 minutes, and we don't touch it at all. Like, they're gonna love you.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
and they'll start working with you.
Yeah.
And have those conversations, like I said earlier, about saying, hey, we noticed when you do this maintenance, the application gets a little squirrely. Like, what can we do to help you so that it doesn't happen anymore? Yeah, a lot of those conversations aren't gonna happen if a lot of these things aren't in place. So
Well, and to take a little bit further to our next topic that is related to that is the way that you help them out by doing things with observability, right? And it sounds like you're a big fan of You said you're really into the monitoring and observability and telemetry. And telemetry is super hot now, and it's super fun to be at a company where we do capture and customers trust us with all the log data, all the telemetry data that we get to do cool things with. But that's still part and parcel of a DBA's job, is to do that. But I view that more as strategist, right? It's less of the compilation and maybe looking through reports and trying to interpret them. And it's actually looking for anomalies or looking for ways that you can improve.
well, it's funny. And I didn't intend for this conversation to keep going back to relationships.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It is
Maybe
though.
that's the theme.
That is the
maybe
theme,
what it
'cause,
is.
like,
We're all people here
my-
working in IT.
My big observability, like the thing that really pushed me in that direction was like having the receipts. So
Yeah.
like when a dev would say, hey, this stuff is running slow, I could be like, here's this massive dashboard with like 1,000 different data points for that point in time. Like, I can show you exactly what was going on. The database seemed to be running fine. Let's look in this direction. So again, building that trust, like it got to the point where like the devs wouldn't, if there was a slowdown
Yeah.
and my team didn't bring it up, they just assumed it wasn't the database. They
Okay.
assumed it was something they did,
Yeah.
which is a huge shift
Yeah.
from
It's this
from
thing, right?
yeah, exactly.
It's like, that's
So-
not us. And the fact that they don't question you at all, right? That you've
Yes.
proved it. You've proved to them enough times over and over that it's not something that's a culprit of what you're managing.
Well, and if anybody had the idea that they were going to blame it on the database,
Yeah.
they wouldn't do that anymore, because they know that as soon as they say something, like, they're going to get a dashboard. It's
Right.
going to show that
Right.
everything is fine, and that the problem is probably somewhere else. So
Yeah. Well, we love that with our storage too, as a blame deflection kind of device, like VM analytics, right? In Pure One has always been one of those things where we can, see how everything's connected, and it's not the storage. It's
Yeah.
not us, right?
Yeah, but it also gives people enough information that they can figure out what it actually is, which is really powerful.
Yeah. We've waited this long into the episode, so how is AI? Oh, we had to bring it up somewhere. But I've hit it a little bit on episodes, and it's relevant. It is hot, but it's also the episode that went out today, the day we're recording, was just about how things are changing so quickly, and we were talking more about coding and agentic and those kinds of things. But AI, we've seen it coming, right? The train
Yeah.
has been coming, and for DBAs, maybe a little threat, but also maybe helping. And I go back to maybe we were talking about with structured and unstructured coming together, that this is a place where you have to look across the whole data real estate. But what from your view, and as you were working in that the last few years, did that come on board, and how did that change things?
So it's funny because it literally impacts everything.
Yeah.
In good and bad ways. Like the really simple, like straight up one is like GDPR concerns.
Yeah.
If you deal with an industry that has to, that stores customer data or anything like that, people want to come in and they want access to all of the data because they know that there's some good, useful information in there somewhere, and that if they feed it to AI, they're going to get some answers they want. So having to really, really be concerned with and trying to protect the data becomes a big job for the DBA as companies try to implement their AI strategies. One thing that is it's really it's beneficial and detrimental to the DBA is the generative AI portion of it.
Okay.
As an experienced DBA, I can drop some logs in ChatGPT or something and have it summarize it for me, and I'll know if it's lying or if it got something wrong or if it missed something.
Because you know your stuff.
Because I know my stuff.
Right.
If you're new, you may not know.
Right.
You may take it because it's very convincing.
Sure.
when it explains things. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that leaves me with a little fear, I guess, for the future. And just how do you train up these young DBAs, these new, I don't want to say young, sorry, the new DBAs, because you can get into it at any age, obviously. But how do you train up these new DBAs to get that experience so that they can judge what they're seeing a little bit better? That's the part that concerns me about it quite a bit. But there's also a lot of opportunities, again, for the relationship building that I've been talking about this whole recording here. And there's one more thing, but it's completely.
It's been a long day.
It has been a long day.
You've been at that SE boot camp all day. Well, you can always circle back to it if you hit it. Do it. See, just happened right,
just
like right by there.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's new skills to learn, and new demands on storage.
Yeah.
As a DBA, I'm specifically thinking about SQL Server and Oracle, just being able to incorporate vector database stuff within.
It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like I said, it's a new skill to learn, and it's going to put a lot more demands and different demands on your environment. But one thing that I think is really cool from a DBA perspective is that everybody's talking about AI. And you can be like, hey, we can solve this problem in this database system we already have, we already pay for, it's already there. We might need to get a little more storage, we might need to think about that a little bit, but like there's not going to be some big massive project to go through this implementation to try to, put some new tools and stuff in place. Like all of our observability stuff is still going to work fine, all of our alerting stuff is going to work fine. Might have to add a few extra monitors or something like that, but they can really use a lot of their skills, and I'll say stay relevant. I don't really like that word a lot because like as a DBA, there's always something you can do.
Totally.
But you'll be more part of the conversations and more involved in those projects, which can only help. So yeah, I like that, but like I said, I'm a little weary of what the future holds.
It's kind of every AI conversation that we have right now is the opportunity balanced with the possible detrimental effects. And I love to be, glass half full guy and focus on the positive things while also being very aware and like you said, for the new DBAs, don't entirely trust putting code in there and getting it out. And maybe that's a great opportunity then to also build a relationship with the experienced DBAs on the team who can help review and understand what you're seeing there and validate. Yeah. Right. It's kind of that, I just had Quast and Saunders on, and they talked about kind of this 80-20 rule that they built on the fly, which was, 80% is kind of there, and then use human logic and human checking to make sure that it can be validated. The last one on here I was pretty excited about because this was one when I was leading solutions marketing that we kind of took on as an opportunity, but was, the statement on here is open source being accepted in the enterprise finally. And I'd say it's been that way for, 4 or 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, but as a valid and mature enough technology to do certain things, right? To do maybe the dev and test, but maybe, I don't know, there's some prod things going on too, but where maybe you don't need the full horsepower of the big production database.
So I will. I have to credit this. With,
Yeah.
I have to credit this to Anthony Nocentino.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I polled. I did
Okay.
a very
Okay.
informal poll to some DBA folks that I know to get some ideas for our little chat here today, and that was one that he brought up that I really
Okay.
liked.
I like that.
And not even specifically for like the open source relational database like management system angle, but just open source in general. It's not unusual or unexpected for a DBA to be able to download an open source tool and use it now in the enterprise without a lot of people saying, "Whoa, what are you doing there?"
Yeah.
One really huge project that comes to mind is DBA tools, the massive PowerShell module. I think they've got over 1,000 functions in there now to do pretty much anything you'd want to do as a DBA. I love stuff like that. It's a huge community project. Tons of people talk about it. Brings a lot of people together. Builds a lot of those relationships that I'm apparently super concerned with. But it just gives DBAs a lot more tools, and a lot of those open source projects do that. And it also, and this is kind of outside of what we've been talking about, but it gives people a really interesting way to build a brand. And build up their resume a little bit with skills maybe a little outside of the job that they're currently working at. Like I love being able to put on my resume that I worked on the SQL Server plugin for Telegraph.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. The community's super cool, and it gives me something I can point to that I did. And I think that's super beneficial, especially for things like that have gotten a lot of like publicity in the community, whatever community you're in. So yeah, I like that aspect of it a lot. I like how many options it gives you when you're trying to solve a problem. You don't have to call like whoever big vendor is for like monitoring. For example, at my previous place, we used Nagios as our monitoring platform, and everyone's like, Nagios, like you got to manage all these config files and stuff. But it was fully in source control. Had automation workflows and stuff. You'd make a change to an alert, it would automatically push out to the monitoring server and stuff. And that's all open source technology. And I guess my biggest, the thing that I like to say the most about that is that we had a monitoring platform that was monitoring 600 servers, all in the same exact way, all with the same number and amount of metrics. We had 10 years of retention on all of our monitoring data. And it cost like $2,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like you can't beat that.
No.
And for those teams that are looking to build their skills and stuff, you can build some really cool stuff with open source solutions, or you can contribute to an open source project and let the community continue to add to it and make it better, and you can get the benefits out of that. So
creatively trying to solve something or relying on the collective value of others partnering with you, but also different than from some of the big corporate tools, as you point out, is like you might actually be able to call the person, right?
Yeah.
Or connect with you wrote this thing and I think we can improve it by doing this. Let's work together. Back to relationships. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's important to mention too at this point, since we're talking about open source and all of my opinions on building things, is that I'm a huge Linux guy. I've been using Linux for since 1998. So I've always been a huge fan of open source, and so like when that started to become a normal thing that enterprises were accepting, I was super excited about that.
That was a big shift.
Yeah, and SQL Server on Linux was like, that was such a weird day.
That must have been great for you.
It was really cool.
Day.
It was just confusing. I'm like, Microsoft is releasing SQL on Linux?
I know.
What are we doing here?
This is fantastic. Hey, really great. I love getting your direct insights and hearing on the DBA role. And you had some conclusions, which I think we touched on a lot of these, right? Which is, 24/7 operation, HADR has to happen, right? It's not just sort of hey, we might need to go off and do that. Like you have to have that in place, but everything that we've talked about, instead of pushing the DBA down the stack to not relevance, everything has built relationship. Everything has elevated the stature and the importance of the role. So I think now more important than ever in that crossroads of what goes on in IT, that it's just super important.
Yeah, if the DBA is open for that.
Yeah, true.
Not everybody wants a seat at the table.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have one though, and it's very possible in that role now.
Yeah.
Oh, and I have to quote Andy.
You have to do Andy's quote. I love
Yes,
Andy's quote.
Andy, and he hates when people say the role of the DBA is dead. It
Yes.
just changes, which we have covered. But I wanted to give a shout out to Andy there.
We have to quote Andy there.
Yeah.
Before we get to hot takes, I want to close with, and it's back to our theme of kind of optimism and pessimism.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned half glass full before, I want to hit what are you nervous about for DBAs? So glass half empty, you go to sleep at night and you think about these things. If you're one of those weirdos who thinks about DBAs at night, and I think about IT and tech stuff at night too. So what about the role right now has you concerned?
So like we had said like we talked about with AI, I'm concerned about new DBAs.
Yeah.
And them being able to pick up the skills they need. It's such a weird topic because it's super helpful.
Yeah.
Can be super harmful as well. And one of the aspects of that too is blogging. Blogging is kind of taking a dive right now. Which is unfortunate because that was always a really good way to get yourself out in the community and do some networking, build those relationships again. And a good way for new DBAs and established DBAs to just get their name out there and start talking with other people and doing some networking and stuff. So a lot of that, I think, is it's all kind of going downhill. I think with AI, because it's so easy to just ask ChatGPT. Now, I think there's going to be a reversal at some point, and blogging is all of a sudden going to be amazingly popular and stuff like that. So it's going to be kind of cyclical, but there's going to be a period where I think it's going to be a little painful for new DBAs that are coming up. Now, on the flip side of that, though, they've got a ton of technologies they can learn about, a lot of like specialty areas they can get into. So there's a lot to learn and a lot of fun stuff that they can do if they can find the right company and a supportive company to be a part of.
It's still a relevant entry point, right? I mean, this is not a technology that's going to go away overnight or really ever, right? I mean, it's integral, right?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
It's there, and companies have invested in this, and you see the commitment and the investment from the prominent database solution providers out there, as well as the growing variance in I mean, every time I go look at DB engines, there's just database for somebody that used to work on my team. She left for a life sciences oriented database company, right? It's unlimited, right? Where it can go. So I think it's always a career that is going to keep evolving and is going to work. And you mentioned the community and the blogging. Okay, so maybe people aren't blogging as much, but I think the data community is strong, right? I talked to Mike Nelson, I talked to Anthony and Melody, who we work with here, and they're super active in the data community. And we're actually working right now to bring some of them over to Everpure and start driving people into our community site around not so much storage, but around data, and make this connection between database operations and some of the things that are evolving and changing. So folks can stay tuned for that. I'm working with Melody and I'm super excited. And now, my friend, you get to close with our hot takes before we go meet up with everybody back downstairs at the tavern from the SE Bootcamp. God, and we hit some of these. So maybe
I know we did.
Maybe it's I always set these up and then I go, wow, this is a really meaty episode that we hit. So maybe your favorite trend, instead of what somebody's missing, but what's your favorite thing that's going on with the DBA role right now? What gets you most excited when you look at what DBAs are doing today?
So two things. And we've covered these, but like two things. The seat at the table.
Yeah.
Because DBAs and really just like your platform folks and stuff, they were kind of behind the scenes a lot before. And they're just a lot more like out there.
They're present.
Yeah, they're present. People are talking to them. It's not, they're not just like, the traditional like stereotypical like Unix like neckbeard guy, you know.
Carl.
Yeah, nothing like that anymore.
That's Carl. I've told stories about Carl before, so I don't need to tell it again. Yes.
But you've got DBAs.
I'll tell you after the episode. Yeah.
Okay. You've got DBAs talking to C-suite people.
Yeah.
They're talking to finance. They're talking to legal. Which, I mean, I don't know how many DBAs are excited about that, but I like that. I like that because they've got a lot more. They have a lot more opportunities to have impact on the company and drive things in a good direction.
Yeah, connect to the business outcomes. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing that they should be paying attention to. And like in our current environment, like they've got a lot of opportunity to do it. So it's something they should definitely seize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Do you have an oops story? I didn't preface you on this.
Oh, what time is it?
Just your favorite one, your funniest one, the one you're not too embarrassed to tell. We got a great collection of these that are going, but something, where you blew something away. Or
So this one is this one is funny because just because of the whole history behind it. But we used distributed availability groups, which is a sorry, anybody. This is a terrible feature. It's really complicated to troubleshoot. It's really easy to mess up. I don't remember what I was doing or why, but I needed to drop an availability group, and I dropped the wrong one.
Oh, no.
And it took the whole application down.
Sure.
I think one of the funniest parts about the whole situation is that one of the database engineers that sat near me, a good friend of mine, his name is Derek, he fixed it. Me, the DBA, I broke it, and I'm like, what is happening? And Derek walks over to my desk, and he's like, what'd you do? And then he's like, oh, yeah, just do this. And it's fixed, and it's working. Yeah, that was funny.
So it didn't blow things away for too long.
No, it didn't. And then he has since moved into my role.
Well, that works out just nicely then.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic guy. But yeah, I just thought it was funny because, I mean, at that point they didn't even have access to do anything like that. But Derek just had the solution.
Love it.
Yeah.
Initiative. Yeah. Go back to Mark, the new DBA. What do you wish you knew? What do you wish somebody had told you? Career advice, spent more time learning. What would new DBA Mark would wish he would have known?
Man, people listening to this are really going to get sick of me using the word relationships.
I don't mind it. It's a good common theme, and it is important.
But man, is it important to build those and listen to people and really try to meet them where they're at, especially in a role like that. Because, when you're a DBA, you're holding all the cards. Like, I mean,
you have the max exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's this tendency from all of us to want to protect and to say no and to just do whatever you can to make sure nothing changes in a big way. And I think that's a mistake.
Okay.
And I think it's a mistake a lot of people make. You can get a lot farther, and I'm not saying like ladder climbing or anything. I think you can get a lot farther, technology wise, even if you can build those relationships and really work with the whole company to kind of move the company forward. So yeah, I would tell myself that.
Yeah, it's hard to learn.
Yeah,
it's hard to learn because you get into a skill and you're just like, well, I'm going to show up every day and I do this thing.
Yeah.
Without the realization that there's other people, and that's why organizations are called organizations.
Yeah, look at that.
The root of the word actually points back to that. That was what we had. You have fun?
Yeah, this is a good time.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
We got across, and I don't mind that you kept hitting on the relationships theme. I think
it works.
That's what it is, and I think as that scary detrimental part of AI that's out there that we touched on, I still think it's going to come down to relationships, right? Yeah. And the people and figuring that part out as relates to AI and have people, thinking about it and asking questions and
Absolutely
talking to different parts of the org and learning things.
I think the new DBAs are going to break things with a lot more confidence than they broke things with in the past.
I love that.
So they'll have those conversations a lot earlier.
Failing faster than ever.
Yes, failing faster than ever.
Faster than ever. That's a good theme.
Man, I need to put that on a T-shirt. Yeah.
That's a good sticker.
AI, failing
Maybe a
faster
sticker,
than ever.
failing faster than ever. Yeah, I like
fantastic.
that. All right. See, I just randomly coin things. That's why I do this. Hey, thanks for coming on. I'm glad we were able to squeeze this in. I had a blast. I loved hearing all your different perspectives. It's great to get one who's a recent practitioner.
Yeah.
And we're so happy that you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Helping customers out and building relationships.
Absolutely.
So have at it and enjoy the rest of the week here with the crew.
Yes, it'll be a long week, but I will enjoy it.
I think it'll be rewarding. And if I get in your group where I'm judging the pitches, I'll try to go easy on you.
Don't do that.
Thanks so much to Mark Wilkinson. Appreciate him coming on. Find Mark on LinkedIn. And certainly, as with all of our technical specialists, please do reach out, right? Whether you're an existing customer looking to improve the way that you operate or a prospect who's curious about what we're doing, we have the field solution architects and the principal technology specialists, the PTSs now, who are here to work with you. And I know I say that at the end of many episodes when I feature these roles, but I feature them because they can do great things for your environment. So that is awesome. Thank you to Mark. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Pure Report. As always, tell a friend and share with a colleague, and we will keep the great guests like Mark coming on to the program. I'm so happy we made this work. Thanks for reaching out, and thank you for listening and watching. With that, we will wrap for Everpure. For Mark Wilkinson, this is Rob Ludeman saying, don't look back. Something might be gaining on you.